Good morning to everyone. Trying to get everything together. Today is February the 15th, 2021. This is the Blackprint that you are tuned into. We are going earlier this morning than we have gone in our other episodes, because today is a holiday and there's a lot of stuff just on the plate for today. So we're going a lot earlier to see how this goes over. This is the third installment of the Blackprint. This is the third episode. Today, I have a very special guest coming in. Well, he's not actually coming into the studio with me, but he will be chiming in via video. You know, we all know how these nowadays you can do Zoom, you can do Restream, and all these different softwares that we have available to us. My man, Arthur Andrews, who is a good friend of mine, and once he comes on, we'll be able to explain or to talk about a lot more of what he's into, what he does, what his expertise is in. But he's a great dude, and I look forward to building with him. Before he comes on, I would like to talk about the first two installments, trying to get people's feedback on how you feel those installments have gone. And those people who are tuning in on YouTube Live or on Facebook Live or on Periscope on Twitter, you guys will be able to comment real time while I'm speaking, and your comments will appear on the screen. Those of you making comments, we will try to get to your comments in a timely manner. So please feel free to interact with the show as we are going along. If I sound too loud or if there's something wrong with the production of the podcast, please feel free to put that in the comments, and I'll try to address it as we're dealing with it live. So I feel like the first two episodes went extremely well. I think each one got better. The first episode, there was no guest, so it was basically just a declaration of what we would be dealing with over the course of the podcast, what type of topics that we would be talking about, and the manner in which we will be delivering that information. That was really what the first episode was about. The second episode, I had my guy Ron James come on, and and he, college friend of mine, also elementary school principal, talked about dealing with COVID from the educational side. And we also got a chance to talk about HBCUs and pop culture and some things like that. So, I feel like that was a definitely positive episode. And I think the feedback was more positive on the second episode than it was the first, which to me indicates that you guys would like to hear more interaction as opposed to just me talking. You would like to continue to have guests on to provide fresh and new perspectives. So I anticipate being able to do that for you. I don't know if it will be every episode, but for the majority of the episodes moving forward, I will definitely try my best to get very intelligent, positive, intellectual speakers to come in and talk to the crowd and talk to the listeners and talk to the followers of the Blackprint about topics that are relevant to what we have going on in our everyday lives. So one of the things that, one of the reasons why I wanted to have my guy Arthur Andrews, and I call him Kane, that's his nickname. But one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on is because he is a financial expert who is well versed in, things like the stock market and the future of where finances are going as far as for the country as a whole. What are some smart moves, things like that. I wanted to have him on because it seems as if we are moving towards, those kinds of things as far as where we as Black people are now getting involved with, the stock market in much larger numbers more recently. So because of that trend, I felt it was a perfect time to have somebody who operates in those circles, on a regular basis, to have somebody like that come on and talk about what he thinks about, what's going on with the stock market. So I'm anticipating him tapping in within the next couple of minutes. Hopefully he didn't have any major things to pop up. But that's what we're waiting on right now is my man Kane to join us and be able to talk to us about some of the things that are going on today. We're not only going to talk about money, but some other stuff as well. So yes, my man Kane is trying to tap in right now. Let's bring him in. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, brother. Peace. What's going down?
How you doing, Kane? So I touched on a little bit of who you are, but we could just get started with getting it in your own words. My introduction to you was through basketball. A lot of people from Hartford used to think that you and your brother were twins. You know what I mean? You always the tall New Britain twins, you know what I mean? But what I think it was you guys ushered in like tall dudes that played the guard. Like, I think y'all was the first set of brothers that I knew that, like, oh, these dudes are tall, but they're not bigs. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, again, like nowadays, that's a dime a dozen. But back then, that was like a pink unicorn. You know what I mean? It's a 6'7" shooter and ball handler. So,
I mean, that was the. I mean, more so for Austin, he'll let you know that was the Lamar Odom, you know what I'm saying, T-Mac influence at the time, and then also coming out of New Britain, we had Darrell Brown, who was really just the year ahead of me, and so even though Darrell had more of the back to the basket game, Darrell also just had a cannon, and so he kind of, it was like a natural progression, I think, and then we just kind of fell in at the right time because that's at that point everybody wanted to be a guard, you know what I mean?
So would you say that this is, again, I don't want to put my thoughts onto you because I want you to speak for yourself, but would you say that you used athletics to get you to a certain level in life, and then once you got there, then your focus changed, or you had an awakening? Like, what would you say happened in the earlier part of your life as far as transitioning from being a basketball player to, doing other things?
I mean, like, it's crazy because I mean, like any kid growing up, I mean, I would have loved to have played in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like, and at one point, it was like, I'm gonna play in the NBA. And so that gives any kid the drive to put the type of work into that you need to even be good at the high school level. You know what I mean? Is that dream? And so it was there, but to be honest, it wasn't like. It was never like my main thing. Like I never had like, oh, I have to go to the NBA. Like for me, I always just had so many other interests that it was like, you know, I would love to be in the NBA, but I still have other things that I want to be involved in. And so, you know, I wanted to go to college. You know what I mean? My mother wanted me to go to, you know, an Ivy League school. You know what I mean? And I definitely had those opportunities. But at that age, you know, I turned that down because I wanted to play, you know, big time basketball. At the time, GW was top 25, you know, my senior year of high school. They're top 25 running through the A10. And
hold on, don't gloss over that too. So GW, you went to George Washington.
Yeah. It's on to George Washington University, you know, and so I mean, still no slouch school, but you know, I wanted the good mix. I wanted big time basketball and I wanted a good education, you know what I mean? And so that's where I went, and I mean, I loved it. I mean, it's a Division I basketball, but at the same time, what I learned was that I had no love for the business of basketball. And that's like when I got there, and I remember when I first met Tom Penders, who was the coach when I was there. And like
How many Penders they used to coach at Texas?
He was a coach at Texas prior to us.
Okay, yeah.
You know, he was killing. I mean, he was at Texas. He was at Rhode Island prior to that.
He was big time. Yeah, he was big time. He
actually got put into the Hall of Fame or whatever, like just recently.
Yo, I remember him being one of the pioneers of the running gun. Like,
yeah. He remember you had the boys out there in Texas getting busy. You know what I'm saying? And so after Texas, he came to GW after what's my guy's name, man? In any event, it come to me. So I was there with Tom Penders, but it was ill because Tom Penders and I, like, we had like kind of I just call it a contentious relationship, but I always pay him his dues because he was the first person. He told me, he said, listen, this is a business. Like, it's the first like real basketball conversation I'm having with this man. You know what I mean? And it's not about, he's like, this is a business. You know, I get paid a lot of money to do this. There's a lot of resources put into this. Like, you have to perform, otherwise you won't be here. Like, it was like simple, you know what I mean? And through his whole career, he was somebody who always kind of railed against the NCAA. Like, if you would have seen, like, after he left GW, like, he had wrote like a book, like basically saying like the NCAA needs to, you know, what they're doing is not right. So he's always been kind of this like, I'm just going to tell you what you're dealing with type of guy. So I really appreciated that. But when I also realized, it was like, there was just a bunch of stuff that I love the game. I didn't want to do media training. I didn't want to have to be, I was smart. So I didn't need to do all these extra, as far as I was concerned, I didn't want to be bothered with all of that. I want to practice. I'll be here to practice every day, but I don't want to do all of this other stuff. But that's part of the business of basketball, and it becomes very real in college. And so after my sophomore year, like during my junior year, beginning of my junior year, I decided like to walk away. You know, I mean, I had a meeting with the team. You know what I mean? At that point, like I was like struggling. Like I didn't even want to go to the gym. Like my grades was bullshit. You know, so I had a meeting with the team, and I basically told them like, yo, I'm not gonna be playing no more. You know what I mean? I got to be a regular student and focus on, I can just go out here and go to Wall Street. It was like.
So Penders came to G-Dub in what year? Do you remember?
98. And so
I remember this is a side note, but I had to bring this up because I know you're a basketball head like me. There was a game between North Carolina and Texas when North Carolina had Shea and Stackhouse and all of them dudes. Yo, I have never seen more dunks in any game in my life.
Yeah.
It was a dude at Texas named Chris Clack.
Yeah.
Yo, them dudes was like, so, and then she was a monster too. Stackhouse, but it had to be for us back then. We was ignorant back then. We used to watch the games just for the dunk-ons. Like it was like 25 dunk-ons in that game. I remember like having that game on VHS.
Yes.
Everybody wanted to come to my house to watch because they wasn't replaying it like they do now. But that Texas North Carolina game, it was like the score was like 110 to 108. You know what I mean? But it was like nothing but dunks. Like a good 10 dudes on that court was NBA level athletes.
Yeah, listen, like and like you said, I mean, obviously North Carolina was North Carolina, and people probably, I would say the average person probably more familiar with who North Carolina was. But Tom Penders, I mean, he was a great like coach, you know what I mean? And like even when he came to GW, like the dudes who could go, they had the ultimate green light. You know what I mean? We had like when I got there, my freshman year, and which was Pender's first year, it was Shante Rogers' senior year. Shante Rogers was one of the top scorers in the country. He's putting up like 20 a game. And then after Shante leaves, he brings in Sir Valiant Brown, who's putting up like 25 a game, like AI games to see him. And like he was like, I remember he pulled Val just put up a post about he pulled Val to the side after one game and was like barking on him, like, I didn't bring you out here to be like, like get the rest of these dudes. I brought you out here to shoot the ball.
So there's a dope documentary on YouTube about the rise and fall of DC Assault.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah.
And like all of them dudes, man, like DC Assault dude, Sir Valiant was one of those dudes. I didn't know. I mean, he's a little guy, but but he was a knockout artist. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was like, dudes from around their way just had quick tempers, and they were just talking about how, DC Assault was getting kicked out of tournaments left and right. Just you know what I mean? The wrong element. And your man Shante Rogers, his son is nice now.
Killing.
His son is getting, he like 5'3". Getting to it
because when I was there, when Shantae's senior year, his son was probably, just being born and maybe had been born a couple years, you know what I mean, a few years old. Because it's ill, because like his kids like basically grew up in France. Because after that, Shantae, he went over to France and like became like a legend over there. You know what I mean? And so it was just crazy because like now I'm at GW and we all following Shantae, seeing what's going on with his story. It was just ill to us that like Shante Rogers from Baltimore, his kids is growing up in France. Like that was just the ill concept to me, because I know who the cloth that Shante was cut from, and like his kids is growing up. So now to see his son out there doing what he's doing, it's no surprise. Shante was one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. Like,
so you brought up something I don't want to gloss over really quickly, is that I feel those people that are really basketball lifers, you travel the country, it's almost like just like how every area where there's a lot of black folks have their own culture, their own music, their own way of wearing clothes. They also have their own way of playing ball.
Yeah.
And like the DC, Maryland, Baltimore area, they got a different style of basketball. But if you ever had one of them on your team, I think dudes from up here, we fall in love with it. And so, what was your experience with, being at G-Dub? And I know you got a lot of friends from that area. Like, was it a culture shock, or was it something like where I fit right in with them dudes? Like, you know what I mean?
So initially, it's crazy because I was at NGW. So GW is basically downtown Washington, D.C. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm in GW. And so, but I got a good mix because we had so many Baltimore guys on our team. I mean, we had Shante Rogers, we had Mike King, who was the heir apparent from Shante. We had Patrick Gongba, who from Central African Republic, but he went to school with them in Baltimore. So like who else do we have? We had like 4 guys from Baltimore, 3 or 4 guys from Baltimore on the GW team. You know what I mean? And then half the other guys, most of the other guys were international players. You know what I mean? And so even though I'm in DC, really was like, at least my freshman year, I was on a Baltimore team. You know what I mean? And so like that's the culture that I got. So like even in terms of my development of my game, I'm at the tutelage of Shante Rogers, and Shante Rogers is a gym rat. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like watching him, like he's in the gym with the, you know what I mean, with the intramural dudes. Like he don't care. Like he was just always in there hooping. And then Mike King is there. And so like these are the dudes that I'm learning. So like you said, I got that Baltimore culture. The DC piece came my sophomore year because now is Val Brown and GW legend Chris Monroe, all-time leading scorer. You know what I'm saying? And Tom Penders gave them the keys, like from the rip. Like Tom Penders is basically that kind of caused the strife on the team a little bit because you know what I'm saying, it was supposed to be Mike King, a Baltimore dude. You know what I'm saying? Like he was supposed to, and then, but at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like Val was just, he performed. Like there was just no denying it. You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't until after I left GW that I really got immersed in the DC basketball because I still, like I said, I still love the game. At GW, I really didn't play a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? My freshman year, I redshirted. My sophomore year, I really didn't play. Like Penders and I was kind of contentious. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was already just going through my shit, like dealing with like all of the extra stuff attached with being a college basketball player. You know what I mean? And I'm not even the center of this. You know what I mean? I'm not Val Brown. You know what I mean? I'm not even that. And I'm just like, I don't want to do all this stuff. And so, when I leave, I still have my contacts. Like I'm still a GW basketball player. You know what I'm saying? I still go to Howard. And so I went to DC. At that time, you had to run and shoot. You know what I'm saying? Run and shoot that's what like, the DC legends will tell you. Like that was the run. You know what I mean? And so the way I got there, actually, I was working for this law firm. Interning and basically like in their mail room, but it's like one of the largest corporate law firms. And while I'm there, they had a corporate team in like the corporate league. You know what I mean? So it's like all the DC law firms and whatever. So they see me, they're like, oh, we got the GW player. We're going to win the corporate league. Let's go. So, you know, this is me using my basketball.
Right.
Right. And so I go and I play in the corporate league. And they stink. So, you know, I mean, I'm out there and I'm like Michael Jordan to them. And I never forget, there was this one play I came down, I dunked on this dude. I like basically put my foot in his chest. And the dude who's running the league, he was there. This damn, yo, I can't even remember homie's names, yo. And in any event, he's there running the league and he saw that and he came to me and was like, yo, I got a team in this other league that I run. He was running like half the leagues in DC. He's like, I got a team in another league at the run and shoot. I want you to come play with us. Boom, boom, boom. And so that's when I went. And I remember the first game I played, I tell you, we played against Victor Page, yo. And then like Victor Page, I grew up, you already know, I grew up, like you said, I'm Big East tuned in. Like I wanted to go to Georgetown. Full disclosure, I wanted to go to Georgetown. That's where my mind, I was like, I want to go play for John Thompson. That's what ultimately got me to DC. Like I just went like 2 years, like my sophomore year, I just went on a visit just because I was like, I got to get there and manifest it. You know what I mean? Right. And so in any event, so I play in this game and I had 40 points, bro. I had like 9 dunks and like my shit just blew up after that. So after that, I was playing in all of the leagues, man. Like, man, all of them dudes, man. Sherm Douglas, he had just retired. He left the league, came back. Like, man, like I saw, you know, all of them. And then I started to see like at GW camps, like Mike Beasley and Kevin Durant, like they're in all of these, you know, at all the tournaments in the leagues, man. So I was immersed in it. Like I stayed in DC until 2005. And that whole time I was there, I was playing in the pro-ams and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that it was, you know, getting involved with the corporate team and all of that not sparked but fueled your love for like what you do today? Like, you know, like I want to transition into, you know, some of the stuff that you have going on now. And I know you told me before that, you know, you were like, you know, putting together campus groups and stuff like that, even when you was in school. But talk a little bit about your transition from being NBA mind centered to realizing that your true gift might have been in, you know, the corporate world or finances or whatever happened.
I mean, the transition really happened in high school. You know what I mean? The transition really happened in high school. Like you said, at the time when I was in high school, you know what I mean? I love basketball, but in my family's mind, everybody thought I was going to be a doctor. You know what I mean? I actually ended up doing an internship summer after my sophomore year at UConn Medical School. And I was like, I love science, but I was like, this hospital thing is just not for me. You know what I mean? Like, I know I was like, this doctor, I threw it out. Now, mind you, my whole life, I've just been saying I want to be a doctor just because I like science, and that's what adults like to hear. But to my family, that was like, what are you doing? Like, but for me, it's crazy. I saw this movie, Barbarians at the Gate. Barbarians at the Gate is about the hostile takeover of RJR Nabisco. All right. So this is like the basically taking over like the cigarette company and the Nabisco company. So they do like this buyout, leverage buyout. And so I saw that movie and I was just like amazed at how much money these dudes was making doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like just talking. Like they wasn't making nothing. They weren't like, they didn't even, the secretaries wrote everything up. They just flying around on planes, talking on phones and just making deals. And it was like all of this stuff. And so from that, just me and I started to research it and I started to see like all of the stuff that actually went into that, the implications and how it affected like so many people's lives in ways that had, you know, that beyond just the Wall Street deal. And I was just amazed by that. And for me, what I saw, I was like, man, that's real power. That's money. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's like, and then at the time I'm looking at Michael Jordan, like Michael Jordan still hadn't even gotten the 33 million yet. You know what I mean? Or the 36 million yet. I'm like, and he's like the top dude. And I'm like, these dudes is making, and then I saw Wall Street. You know what I mean? The original Wall Street, Gordon Gekko. And when I saw Gordon Gekko, what I saw was that for me at that age, I was like, man, these dudes. Now I saw RJR Nabisco. This is supposed to be sort of like legitimate finance. You know what I mean? Corporate takeover, but legitimate finance. Then I see Gordon Gekko, and that's supposed to be more like the crook. But then I saw the parallels between Gordon Gekko and the hustlers that we see in the streets. I saw that when I was in high school. You know what I mean? And so I saw, like, I was like, man, I know this game. Like, I know this game. And so at that point, I immediately started to dive into like business and finance because I love math. And then so it was a natural application of my math. I started to dive in. Just everybody would tell you I started to carry the Money magazine. I had the Money magazine everywhere with me. I started to carry the Wall Street Journal everywhere with me. Like I started to build a brand around it. You know what I mean? Like I made a conscious decision that when people see me, like they're gonna know this is the mode that I'm on. You know what I mean? So I started that like really like my junior year of high school. You know what I mean? I'm still this is also my junior year of high school is now when I'm really starting to come into my own in basketball. So it's not that I pushed that to the side, but I saw now I was like, I mean, I'm gonna use this basketball for me, if like I could have played in the NCAA tournament and then, you know, ran Goldman Sachs, that would have been like the perfect line. You know what I mean? That would have been it. Like, I would have been like, forget the NBA. And then even then, I still was like, you know, forget the NBA because I can still make a lot of money. And then playing in DC, what I saw is I can still play against the best players in the world because they were still coming there. Richard Hamilton was coming to DC every summer. You know what I'm saying? Hooping with us. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I still can play against the best people ever. I don't get to do it on the greatest stage, but I can still do that and get that competition. And I can make way more money just talking.
So your love for finances started in high school, but like it has sparked like some major moves on your behalf, like as far as the projects that you dedicate your time to, you know, some of the things that you know, you're always spreading information to people that follow you on social media. So talk a little bit about what you've been doing, like with the Earn Your Leisure guys, EYL University, for those of y'all that do follow that. I know you got some big things like, you know, going on with that. So I want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, man. So the Earn Your Leisure guys, you know, shout out to them, Troy, Rashad, my guy MG, of course, my girl Janet, the head of EYLU, shout out to the whole crew, MG. Man, really right now with them, it's just like they just a crew that I'm just building with. You know what I mean? Like we don't have like a formal relationship, nothing like that. At the time when they launched their podcast, I was in France, working with Bria Holmes. You know what I mean? And being nanny to her and Danny Longhorn's newborn child. You know what I mean? So I was helping out with that over in France, and they had just launched a podcast, so there was nothing for me to do. It was rainy. I left sunny Florida to be in rainy France in January, and so I tapped into their podcast, and I was just like, "Yo, this is ill," because they were kind of talking about the things that I like to talk about. You know what I mean? They were talking about business. You know what I mean? They were talking about getting money, but not just getting money, but like all of the intricacies around that. You know what I'm saying? And so I just started to follow, like, a fan of any other podcast. And I'll say like during COVID, when COVID tapped in, they had started like a real estate Facebook group. And it was like a private group. And that's like kind of when like the community was still kind of small. It's probably like a couple hundred people who was initially on it. But in there, we just started dialoguing. We was talking about all types of different stuff, the Great Recession, and people just kind of like my viewpoint, or at least the questions that I challenged them to answer. And so from there, I just kind of developed a good relationship with the fellas, and in particular Janet, that's my teammate over there. Just like building, you know what I mean? And so now it's just like, on the Facebook page, they show me how to love or whatever. People always want to tap in, and they appreciate my opinion. And so that's, at this point, that's really what it is. They came down to Miami, we kicked it, we met in person, you know what I mean? So that was love. And so, I'm just a supporter of what those guys are doing, because they're making financial literacy and not just financial literacy, like entrepreneurship and research, like not just research of stocks, research of
trends and things like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like more than like just the general thing where people are starting to dig deeper. You know what I mean? And I think like that's the main benefit, and they're forming a community around that. And there's other guys out there. I'm sure your Wall Street Trappers, another one. Mark Monroe with the Come Up series. These are some guys, man, that they've like over the last year, they've developed some communities, and I'm, for me, I just consider myself a part of it. I try to be active as possible, and I think that's same thing like with the Brown Table, man. You come, you show love, and the more you do that, and the more consistent you are, the more the people show love back to you. And for me, that's all it is. With During Your Leisure guys, right now it's just appreciation on my part, and growing friendship.
So, recently there's been a lot of things happening. We talked privately and we joked about it. It's funny, but it's also true that I don't think we've ever seen this many financial experts on our timelines. Everybody is tapping in, and they think they got the stock market figured out, because of what's been going on. Like, what is your take on like the last, say, 2 months, like the events that are happening with, like with Tesla, with Dodge, I think I'm saying it correctly, Dogecoin, and with GameStop and all those type of things. What is your opinion on that, based on the expertise that you have?
That's a whole lot, but so let's pick one. What you
GameStop.
All right, so GameStop was it's if you read the financial news now, you can more or less see what it is. It's not a secret, but GameStop was a trade. Some smart guys they saw opportunity to basically take advantage of the mechanics of the market. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what it was. They saw the position that these guys were in, and they were like, we can take an advantage of this, cause them some pain, and then causing them some pain, we're going to make a lot of money doing it. And so, like, that's what it kind of starts as, this organic thing. Eventually, other people start to figure out the same trade. Like, that's the thing about all trades. Like, eventually, people start to figure out the trade. You know what I mean? And so, Other people start to figure it out, both at the retail level and at the institutional level. And so, I mean, as far as what happened mechanically, like, you know, these guys have a short position. The guys who come up with this new trade start buying up all of the shares. And so now these guys who are in a short position, when they want to get out of that position, they have to basically find these shares to be able to, because they got to go back and buy these shares, because they got to give them back to whoever they borrowed them to. But now there's no shares for them to buy. Everybody is like, I'm not selling you my shares. And so that's when you see the whole do not sell, because they're trying to squeeze the guys who are in the short, basically saying the guys in the short, they need our shares in order to meet their debt, essentially. Don't sell them your shares, because and keep driving the price, because the higher it goes up, the more and more money that they're going to ultimately lose, right? And so that's like the mechanics of the short squeeze. Like all of the other stuff, the conspiracy, like I don't see it as like a revolution and all of that other stuff. I think that what you see is like you see with most things, like, you know, the public gets wind of it, you know, you get some hype around it, people participate for a little while, and then, you know, they move on. You know what I mean? How many people are talking about GameStop this week?
None.
No, nobody. You know what I mean? Like, where's the revolution at? Like, you know what I mean? Like who? Like, if nothing else, it'd be like, who you squeezing today? Like, if that's what it is, it's over. Like, the money was made. Whoever bought in at 300 or 400 or shit, even at 100 at some point, probably at this point, lost money. You know what I mean? And so, and a bunch of wealthy people still made a lot of money. You know what I mean? And so beyond that, you know, it was an interesting time, and it's kind of just a symptom of the larger times. You know what I mean? Where you can have these anomalies happen. We had these quick run-ups, pops, and then you just move on.
So we had a couple of comments from some viewers. Any recommendations on where to start to educate myself on the financial world? That's from K. Arset. She asked, is there any recommendations on where to start to educate herself on the financial world?
I mean, I always say start with this. I always say start with your bills. You know what I mean? Start with yourself, because
you say your bills.
Your bills.
Okay.
Start with yourself. The guy, my guy MG, the mortgage guy, he always says you are the CEO of you. You know what I mean? Like, you're the CEO of your business. And so you have to run your business. You know, Reg, you know, I'm a big supporter of brother Louis Farrakhan, you know what I'm saying, and the Nation of Islam. And they're gonna tell you, like, you start with self-improvement. And through that, you like literally learn exactly what you have to do with the financial world, so to speak. It's just to build on that. And so you have your house, you figure out how much money that you're bringing in. You figure out exactly what your bills are. You pay those bills. You figure out how much money do I have left over. So with that money that I have left over, what can I do with it? Am I now taking that money and saving it so, you know, I can invest in something else? Am I, you know, spending it frivolously? And or, you know, after I pay all my bills, do I not have any money left over? But from there, you start to do the exact same thing that you're going to do with these companies. You're going to go look at the company. You're going to look at, so to speak, their house. You're going to say, how does this company make money? You know what I mean? How many bills does this company have to pay in order for it to make money? What's left over? This is the profit. What do they do with their profit after the fact? Do they invest it in things that are going to ultimately make it more money? New technology, you know, better employees, whatever. Or, you know, are they, you know, in an industry where, you know, there's no investment, like the oil industry? So now they're just paying out dividends because they don't really have any high growth investments to make in the oil industry at this point. Everything is going to renewable energy. And so you start to go through these same things. So I bring it back to start with yourself. Like, that's what the financial like, at the end of the day, people want to understand the financial world, but ultimately, in order for you to participate in that, your house and your has to be in order. Once you have your situation in order and you can understand your income and the bills that you have to pay, and how much money that you're ultimately able to save from that. And if you're not able to save any money, then you have to back up and say, what bills can I cut and how can I make more money? You know what I mean? Like, it becomes that simple. What bills can I cut and how can I make more money so that I can save? Once you get to the point where you are capable of saving some form of your income, that once again, you start to do the research. And so you say, all right, what's the best place to put my money? And then you're going to go through the same process. Should I leave it in the bank? Should I leave it in? Go ahead, Reg.
That actually leads us up to her second. She had a follow-up question. She said, how does one start to invest?
Like I said, you start to invest with learning the information. Like people don't understand. The first thing that you have to invest is your time. That's the first thing that you're investing. Like everybody always says, like, time is our most valuable asset. Time is our most valuable asset. Well, if time is your most valuable asset, invest that. Investing that, you know what I mean, will give you your highest returns. And so that's where you have to start. So before you, even if you have the money, before you put the money anywhere, you have to figure out where to go. And so it starts with you having to invest the time to learn about these things. And so, I mean, there's a variety of different investments. I mean, it depends on what your goals are, like what you're trying to accomplish will determine like where you start to invest. You know what I mean? If your goal is to, you know, one day just buy a house, like how do you start to invest? I say you start putting money to the side so you can get a down payment. So that's basically just, you just need to save your money. If your goal is that you want to start investing, let's say in the stock market, once again, it becomes, all right, what are your goals with these investments in the stock market? Are you trying to do something for 5 years, for 10 years? Are you trying to be aggressive? You know what I mean? And so once again, it comes back to you. You have to set your goals. In order for you to be able to start thinking about what company you're going to invest in, you have to set the goals of your house. You know what I mean? And so I would say, what's her name? KR Set.
KR Set, yeah.
KR Set. I would say that's the first thing you want to do when you want to start to invest is, one, figure out the state of your household, and then figure out the goals of your household. From there, that's the first thing. From there, that determines what you invest in. That determines what you invest in. And so that's where you start.
So that leads us directly into what the next thing I wanted to bring up is you had some interesting takes on future, like 5-year plan, 10-year plans, and with specifically with Black people, with African Americans. Can you touch on you know what your vision is of where the finances of the country will be in, you know, the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the growth of technology, and I like I said, I've been doing Reg, you know, I talked to you about this last night. Over the last, I'll say 2 or 3 months, I've just been really diving in, doing a lot of research on the tech end in terms of artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, robotics, biotech, so on and so forth, and just really just trying to get a grasp of it. You know, I've kind of always paid attention to it as someone who's curious, but I just really been trying to do a deep dive just to, you know, I had to get my mind wrapped around it. And just from what I can see and just from the things that I've learned, I mean, a lot of what I'm going to be saying right now is, you know, me repeating literally what I've learned over the last couple of months. So I don't want to make it seem like these are all just my original thoughts out of the thin air. That being said, is that the growth of technology right now is so fast. It's so fast. And we kind of understand it. Like, you know, like you can kind of show somebody like their iPhone 11 or 12 and say, go look at an iPhone 3. You know what I mean? Like go use an iPhone 3 and tell me you want to use that phone. Right. And so they can kind of see, like, we kind of feel it. And so as a result, we think that that's fast. And I think we assume that growth is going to continue kind of at that rate. You understand? However, it's exponentially higher than that. You know what I mean? In terms of where things actually are. And I say where they actually are, I would say in terms of where these companies and these researchers, where they're accomplishing, like the things that they've actually accomplished are light years ahead of that. Now, they're not like in like commercial usage, or, you know, like we're not all privy to them, but they're more or less already getting there. You know what I mean? Like I told you, they're like printing houses, like 3D printing houses, and they 3D print like Yeezys. You know what I mean? And so I think that we're entering a stage of somewhat of euphoria, right? And it's a euphoria, one, because we're getting a lot of free money right now. In a way that we've never gotten it. Last time the money came out, you know, during the Great Recession, you know, you didn't get a check. You just had to sit there and hope you didn't lose your job. You know what I mean?
Right.
I hope you didn't lose your house. You know what I mean? Like, you did that. There was nobody coming to save you. But this time, you know, people are getting money. Like, there's no fear you losing your house. You know, and in some cases, some people are still getting evicted. But for a lot of people are, you know, they don't have to pay their rent. And combined with that, and we talk about specifically to our people, even though we went through the tragedy of George Floyd last year, one, as you know, you and I like to always say, like, there was nothing, not to say that there's nothing special, but that was nothing unique. His tragedy has been, there was a string of them. The media keyed in on that one. But from that, you know, we had a certain rallying, and every time that happens, there's a euphoria with that. Like, there was a certain euphoria that Black people experienced after Rodney King. You know, it's cathartic. You get mad. You're like, you want to do something. You see the reason why. It's kind of, there's a certain unification, and at least you can identify something that's wrong. You know what I mean? And so, combined with society being accepting of it now, right? And so the society is accepting of us expressing our pain, and as always, going through our pain, like finding this glory, right? And so we got the Black Panther movie. You got like Black Hollywood is booming. You know what I mean? Black comedians like Dave Chappelle got his name back. You know what I mean? It's like, and so it's this euphoria, and it feels like things are getting better. You know what I mean? And I think that they're actually getting much, much worse.
Wow. So I want to change gears here just a little bit, because, you know, we're in the latter part of the interview.
Let me just throw this stat out there.
No doubt, you got it.
Throw this out there to be mindful. It's like, with all of the growth and all of this stock stuff and all of the Black people, and I love it. Like I said, I love what these the EYLs and the guys are doing with the financial literacy and investing. But with all of that happened, 8 million people across the whole United States, right? This is everybody. 8 million people went into poverty. And I'm talking about not even like the new poverty. I'm talking about traditional poverty last year. And we were the largest portion of that, Black people. So like, I think it's something like 3.2 million Black people moved into poverty from July to December. And so with all this euphoria, I mean, how much better are things really getting for us as a people?
Is there a way to stop that? Like, like, is there a foolproof? Well, nothing is foolproof, but is there a logical way to say, listen, this is the best way to protect me and my family from ever going or from going into poverty in the near future? Because, you know, I know that this is something that I can bank on, you know, being around or being lucrative, in the near future.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard, because it's becoming cliche. One of the things that I'm saying, it's becoming harder and harder every day to create real wealth. Becoming harder and harder every day, and you know,
the goalpost is moving.
Huh?
I said they're moving the goalposts. You know, like
exactly.
We talked about how, you know, $1 billion is not, and that sounds crazy to say, it's not that much anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
when you got 2 cats sitting on 200 billion, they like, yo, the billion, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a half a percent of their paper.
Right.
At that level, like just think about that. That's a half a penny. You gotta that's like you come on, like even dudes who just got 99, a dude got 100 pennies in his hand and he dropped one penny, he probably won't even pick up that one penny, and he got just $1.
One of the things you said to me, which kind of hit me, was like, people are making money and thinking that that their money is significant, and then you see something like Elon Musk put up 1.5 billion. Like he had enough to put up 1.5 billion into a stock he believed in, basically. Like,
yeah, I mean that's the company's cash, right? But I mean, not to say that Elon Musk couldn't get a line of credit or doesn't have access to 1.5 billion in cash personally. Sure, he could get it, but that was the company's cash. But the point that I was making was talking about the young lady who just brought Bumble public. She IPO Bumble at the end of last week, and she's like the youngest woman, I think, like the woman CEO to IPO a company, and I think like the first woman to ever do it, like at $1 billion valuation or something like that. So she's now worth, like at the time she IPO'd, like she was worth 1.5 billion. You know what I mean? But I was just trying to put it in perspective, like yeah, that's great. And I'm not trying to knock, like, I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't have 1.5 billion, nothing. You know what I mean?
Neither does Hove.
Word, right? And so I'm not knocking that, but I'm just to put it in perspective is that just 5 days prior to that, Elon Musk takes $1.5 billion and puts it in what most people at this point still would consider a speculative investment, Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just in a quick shot, at the same time, while he's still trying to fund a multi-billion-dollar Tesla, multi-billion-dollar space exploration, multi-billion-dollar rail, and everything else, Neuralink, he has an extra 1.5 billion to just be like, yo, Bitcoin.
Right.
I'm buying Bitcoin at $20 a day. So just to put that in perspective, that's what he just did on a Monday. And then Shorty, her success is 1.5, but it just shows you where that goalpost is now.
Right.
Where that goalpost is, And so, like I said, what I project is that in 5 years, we're going to have more Black millionaires than ever. Like you're going to see a Black millionaire class, but the goalpost is going to be way past that. Way past that. Like I said, I think that at this point, yeah, man, I at this point, like you really have to turbocharge. And so like I think you have to take your income, like you said, to your point, how do you protect your family or whatever? What I'm doing with mine is the income that I generate, I try to live a relatively frugal lifestyle, and I try to invest in these technologies in the ways that I see fit. And like I said, a lot of this stuff, there's no way I don't have the capital to invest in artificial intelligence. And so this goes back to the young lady's question earlier. Like I don't have the money to invest in artificial intelligence in scale. You know what I mean? I can't hire data scientists and all of this stuff. However, what I can invest is my time right now. And so the time that I invest is learning about the technology, becoming as much as an expert as I can, you know what I mean? Talking to these people so that while the income that I do have coming in, as I save that and as I make investments that are more to my scale, once I get to a point that I have enough capital, now because I'm an expert in AI, I know where the opportunity is. I see the opportunity and I can deploy my capital in a responsible and will ultimately be a profitable way. But the investment in artificial intelligence for me started 2 months ago with me listening to a bunch of podcasts and then me reading a bunch of books. And then now me reading an article, and then now in my Google search, I have like pings for like artificial intelligence articles, you know what I mean? Right. And for all of these, and for robotics, and for 3D printing. And so that's what it is right now. That's the investment. I mean, that's time. I have to consume that information, like, you know, and so I have to balance that versus my income. I take my income. Once I see the move that I can make, I tap in. And so for your family, you know, ramp up your income the best way you can see fit. any free money that you're getting, know that it's ultimately not free. Make sure that you're not.
Wow, I don't know what happened. Oh yeah, he lost contact. Let's get him back up here. Yes, sir. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, my fault. I thought we had dropped out. But yeah, save up your capital. And then, like I said, I think at this point it starts with research, learning about these things. If you, like I said, I recommend the Come Up series. I recommend Earn Your Leisure without a doubt. I'm there. I learned a ton from the community that's there. It's not about the guys really. It's about all of the people that are in there, like on the same wavelength. They're all asking the same questions that we ask here. You know, and as a collective, we learn from this stuff. I learned a ton about stuff that I already thought I knew. You know what I mean? From people who I wouldn't have expected to learn it from. You know what I mean? And so, but Earn Your Leisure, Wall Street Trappers, another one. These are guys who they have a sense. My guy Ian Dunlop, they have a sense of this technology revolution that's going on, and they are actively learning and trying to figure out how they themselves can invest their income in these things. And so, and they look like us, they're brothers. And so if you're looking for somebody that looks like us that do it, I will follow those guys. They give great information. I get a lot of my ideas, that guys, a lot of my research. And I'll be posting some things in the brown table every now and then, maybe some things that I'm reading that you can tap into. And, feel free to hit me up. I'm on Facebook. If you're on the brown table, tap in, hit me up in the chat, and we can chop it up. I do this all day.
So listen, the last 3 minutes, and don't sign off once the 3 minutes is over, because I'll still be able to chat with you a little bit on the live stream, but the podcast will be ended. But in the last 3 minutes, tell me your assessment. I know you just recently watched Judas and the Black Messiah. What did you think about the movie? It's getting some Oscar considerations. So what is your opinion on what you watched?
I thought it was a good movie. I don't know the actor's name, but homie did it, like he killed the role. You know what I mean? Like
talking about Daniel Kaluuya, the one that played Fred.
Yeah. Homie that played Fred. Yeah, I mean, homie a dope actor. You know what I mean? Like I think he gets into his characters well. You know what I mean? The ones that he does, and so he smoked the role. The young lady was dope. I think everybody did, a good job. Even the dude who played the snitch, like his ability, like it was like I'm sitting there, I'm looking at homie face, and I'm like, this is like the mindset of like the traitor. You know what I mean? And like even the stress that he was going through in that situation. You know what I mean? Like his ability to, it made me he's the bad guy, so to speak. But when he in there, and he went to him, like when he had to ask him if he wanted another drink.
Right. Like, yeah, he could barely bring himself to do it. Like,
I was nervous for him. I'm like my empathy switched. It's crazy. Right. Empathy switched, because I'm like, yo, damn, like I could, like he don't like but the barrel was to his head. You know what I mean? And so, I think they did a great job, man. I will say this. I think that I hope that what happens with this movie is that, and the thing is, I'm gonna be honest, I know all of the details of this part of Fred Hampton's life. You know what I mean? What I was hoping to see was how he became that 19-year-old Fred Hampton. That's not what's talked about, and I think that's what's most important. Like I
don't know if anybody knows that though. Like, you know what I mean? Other than the people that came up with him, you know what I'm saying? Like, so just like, with you, like, not too many people have a detailed account of pre-high school Kane, you know what I mean? Like, and to be honest with you, you showed up in high school already who you are. You know, Fred Hampton had to be getting some serious, like, he had to be reading some serious books as a youngster. I just posted a video of him at 19 when he was that whole.
Did you talk about education?
Yeah, like, yo, like there's grown men that don't talk like that.
Yo, bro, it's crazy because I mean, I got to give a shout out to my main day to day is working with my organization, Connective Inc. We're an educational nonprofit with my brother Ian Thomas Minor and Andre Clark. That's my two bros with the whole rest of the team. You know what I mean? I won't go into the names because I don't want nobody to feel left out. But y'all know who you are. But we're talking to administrators trying to like at this point trying to convey that message to them, and they're like,
Right.
And here he is at 19.
Right.
So you talking to grown men trying to explain to him, like, yo, listen, man, that bank, like you tell he was like, the bank, like you can give you the money, if you don't educate them right, they're gonna spend it wrong.
To all of the podcast listeners, we gotta wrap it up. I want to thank my man Arthur Andrews, aka Kane, for coming on and being with us. This was episode 3 of the Blackprint. Thank you for tuning in. Peace. And to all the live watchers, we can continue. We had to basically end the podcast part with just the audio, but to go back to the point on Fred Hampton. Yo, he was, first of all, he wasn't just trying to move black people. You know what I mean? Like, and the movie showed him going to like, yo, I'm gonna go meet with the gangsters. I'm gonna go meet with the white extremists. I'm gonna go meet with everybody and make them understand how capitalism is the enemy of all of us. And the last thing they want to see us do is unite and fight against, the haves and the have-nots. They don't want the have-nots to unite. And I think that's why essentially J. Edgar Hoover felt this dude was a bigger threat than Martin and Malcolm. Like, he had to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this dude, not, okay, we're going to wait until, like, whatever. Well, it could just be that he learned from his mistakes with Martin and Malcolm. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Because remember, he said, jail made Huey a superstar, yo. Yeah. Like, he can't go to jail.
He said Cleaver wrote a book. Like,
yeah,
he wrote a book.
Bro, but they hit him with robbing an ice cream truck. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that would fly in today's.
Why not?
How? Like, I'm sure he did it.
Like that's the thing about it is that.
Did he rob the truck?
If they were to do that right now, if they were to go and snatch Louis Farrakhan off the street and charge him with stealing ice cream, no doubt people are gonna be mad, no doubt. But if they're moving like that, that's what they want to do. Like, I mean, honestly, like, what's really gonna happen? Like, we still gonna have to go to court to figure out. Half of black people is not gonna care, so it's not like it's gonna be this big unified movement. There's, you know what I mean? Like, it's so, like, what's this? Like, for me, I don't think that it's extreme that they could do that just like that now. I mean, like, how is versus them just putting a knee on your neck right there, just getting right to it. Like, we're not even gonna wait for all of this plot and all of that. Like, let's just get rid of these dudes.
Yo, but like Fred Hampton didn't even have a gun. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like, yo, did you see the numbers? They said they settled for like 1.8 million.
Yeah, after 12 years.
That's nothing. Like, they owe more than that in legal fees, probably. It's just crazy to think about that this brother was this young, but that powerful. And, like, basically Public Enemy #1 because they had saw what Martin did and what Malcolm did previously.
Yeah, and it wasn't just them, because you got to understand is that, like you said, Elijah Muhammad went and met with the white supremacists.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm went and met with them. You see what I'm saying? Marcus Garvey went and met with them.
With the Klan, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's not about that they supported their view of black people. They just supported their outlook on society. And what they realized is that this, like, we're a group, you're a group, and then there's another group that's in charge, because ultimately y'all not in charge either. Like, you may think because you like running around here in the South and got, but you not really the ones that's in charge either. And so it was like, listen, if you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. And now the whoever's running things won't be able to use us against each other. I mean, that's ultimately the ploy. But I mean, at that time, the United States main tool was causing chaos at that point. I mean, they was doing it here, they was doing it all over the world. You know what I mean? At that point, in the 70s, at that point, CIA is everywhere doing basically the same thing, planting inside guys, and yeah, man.
What do you think of the dynamic of the fact that Bill O'Neill killed himself?
I'm not surprised by that, man. He was like, at the end of the day, you remember in Belly. Remember in Belly, like I remember when I was watching it. Remember in the movie when the white dude was like, "Man, I was at that rally," and he was like, "Either you deserve an Academy Award, or I would have swore you really believe that Panther stuff." Right. And when he said that, what it triggered in my mind, it triggered to me Belly when DMX went into remember he's supposed to be like in the fake NOI or whatever.
Right.
He's supposed to be like the inside man. And remember, Nas is narrating it. And he was like, he's going through it. And he's like, but there's only, if you expose somebody to the knowledge, I don't care where they're coming from, it's going to start to take effect. And that's what happened with DMX in the joint. And that's what happened with Dude. Like, he was, like, you got to think, he didn't want to be there, right? But then when he's there because of, like, whatever that charge is and whatever. So he makes his decision to be a snitch, and he goes in. But still, he goes in, and hearing that information, it's just like, it just so happened that he heard about it after he got arrested, instead of hearing about it before.
Exactly. He made 2 attempts, in my opinion. He was trying to outsmart the police.
Yeah.
When he went to Fred, basically like, yo, you need to do this. Like, he was trying to basically say, yo, like, this is the way you can get away from this, even with me snitching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Fred was too dedicated to the cause to even listen. Like, what are we talking about? Like, nah. Even when he had, like, yo, we got C4 and all this other type of stuff, they like, yo, get that out of here. What did you do? You know what I mean? Like, but yo, that was his attempt.
He knew that Fred and them wasn't on that tip. That's what he was trying to tell them.
Yo, he really started believing this dude was the Messiah, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, the lessons started taking hold of him, yo. You know what I mean?
And so, like, to answer your question, like, when he killed himself, like, like, he probably is in turmoil. At the end of the day, at that point, he really becomes like Judas, because he probably, to a certain degree, he probably loved Fred Hampton, just like everybody else who was listening to him. But he just, like, you know what I mean? He probably loved him, but, like, he wouldn't be the first non-brother, let alone brother, to backstab their brother. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, the way to that, he was like, yo, I can't live with it. So
it was powerful to me to see the gang that originally didn't like them dudes show up and give home money and be like, look, bro, bounce. You know what I mean? Go on a run. You know what I'm saying? And Fred was like, nah, man, like, I'm gonna do them 5 years, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for robbing an ice cream truck. Like, yo, man, it just seems like it's just so unfair and even unrealistic. Like, if I didn't know the story was true, I wouldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems so far-fetched that a dude that intelligent could be locked up for robbing an ice cream truck, and then, and we're going to throw the book at you. You know what I mean? I don't believe he would have survived those 5 years. They would have had somebody try to kill him in jail.
I mean, that's why they had him killed before then. Like you said, we just like, why are we wasting this? Why are we gonna feed this man for 5 years?
Right.
That's budget we can use for something else. Like, let's just get. But one of the things I always talk about that era is that the flaw, if you want to call it that, is more so the naivete of that era, is that they underestimated how far the CIA and the FBI were ultimately willing to go. Like they thought they knew it, like they thought they knew they was bad, but they didn't realize how like far they would go. I mean, and we really didn't realize it until after the fact when we look back and you like, yo, they did all the there was this movie on Netflix. It was like man, it was about like all of the snitches from like the 60s, like in Mississippi. God,
I gotta check that out. I'm unaware of that.
Oh man, like in the civil rights movement. Oh, it's crazy. It's way like in terms of if you watch it's like the Judas and the Messiah, but like you're gonna see that it's basically the entire civil rights movement was like flooded with informants. Like I mean, you just get to see.
I've heard Bobby Seale was an FBI informant. I've heard that Ralph Abernathy, that was Dr. King's guy, was an FBI informant the entire time. Some people say Jesse Jackson is. People say Al Sharpton is. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Al Sharpton is documented, at least as far as it is with
right.
You know what I'm saying?
But one of the things I've always done, like, you know what I mean? In my hood, if he wasn't from around my way, it was almost blasphemous to say somebody else from another hood was good. You know what I mean? But I've always been the type to be like, nah, yo, my man from New Britain is nice. You know what I mean? And I argue with dudes like, like, yo, he's the good. Like you can say what you want, but he's tough. Yo, even though he's not on our team, J. Edgar Hoover was a bad boy, man. As far as getting it done, like, yo, he revolutionized the game as far as like, yo, we gonna go after these dudes, and like you said, I'm not sparing no expense on who I'm after.
But this is what's crazy. Is that and it's not just J. Edgar Hoover, right? Because J. Edgar Hoover, really, who J. Edgar Hoover is a man who wants power. You see what I'm saying? And he's like, I want power, I want to control things, and I want things to go my way. And so he doesn't care about black people like that. You see what I'm saying? Like only in so much of him controlling power. You see what I'm saying? Like, and so part of like the Black Messiah thing, it wasn't him who created that. That comes from professors and psychologists and sociologists and these think tanks who come up with all of these things because they're studying human behavior. And so through studying the human behavior, that's when you see that document when they say like, this is the reason why. Remember they show that thing where it's like, this is the reason why a Black Messiah would be bad. They were talking about even in Africa, you know what I mean? Like one of these government, transmissions, whatever. So in any event, but that's research of them studying human behavior and then saying like, this is how you control these people. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you don't do this, human behavior says a Messiah is going to raise up and then he's going to come. And so now he goes and he's like, listen, we can't allow that to happen with these black people. You see what I'm saying? Because that doesn't fit his power construct. It doesn't fit his power construct. And so even with the mafia, eventually, when the mafia didn't fit the power construct anymore, they went and they said, yo, we're going to take down these mafia cats as well. And so you started to see the mafia start to lose influence. You see what I'm saying? Like the mafia was there. They were always investigating them. You got to think during the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, the same time that they're investigating all of the black people, they're investigating the mob as well. The same, I mean, from the time of Al Capone, so they're doing the same thing, but the mafia power structure still suited the government's power construct. You see what I'm saying? So they allowed them to exist. They allowed certain guys to still operate because those guys still had control over a lot of things, to the point where one of your biggest bootleggers' sons becomes the president. You see what I'm saying? And so they allowed, but once you got to the 70s, in the 80s, that power construct wasn't, because now it was all about, we got to clean up New York. We got to clean up New York now. Now we can't have Times Square looking like this. We can't have these communities with y'all. And so that's when you start seeing now all of the bosses fall down. Like now, who's worried about the mob really? Like, I'm gonna be honest, like that's not like a big, you know what I'm saying? Like not to say that they're not there, not to say, but the influence is not the same. And so I think that to my point is that it becomes deeper than like a vendetta. And it becomes deeper than just the man, because I think that's what happens. It becomes it becomes a scapegoat, because now we could look and just be like, man, J. Edgar Hoover was the worst dude ever. And then people are going to look at probably Donald Trump and be like, yeah, like Donald. And now what happens? You don't do the work, because the real work is that the only way J. Edgar Hoover is able to implement all of that is because he has the research. And like they say, like, we are the mouse in the mouse trap. And then he takes that and then they use it against us. And so you don't think about when you sending your kid to college, that professor that's teaching them is some of the professors that's coming up with these same doctrines that the CIA or the FBI or the policymakers are going to ultimately use to write the Patriot Act, to write the this and that and the third, you know? And so I think it's important that we look past these figurehead dudes and see, and like we always say, like, see the institution behind it. The figureheads are not important. They're going to be there as long as the institution is there. So you got to focus on where the institution is. Like, J. Edgar Hoover was one guy, man. He's dead now. Why is this? He's dead now, and his power construct is still rocking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, this movie, man, they saying that it should be nominated for Best Direction by Ryan Coogler, who was the guy who did Black Panther, and then Best Actor by Daniel Kaluuya, and also Best Supporting Actor of Lakeith Stanfield. I think Lakeith should be a shoo-in, you know, for the actual snitch. He talked about how mentally playing the role was affecting him, like, you know what I mean, because that doesn't align with who he is as a person. Like, he was having real issues coming in every day, having, like, even just, you know, I'm not a, you know, professional actor, but he was like, he puts himself so much into his role that, you know what I mean, he was experiencing the feeling of, like, yeah, you know what I mean, like when they saying cut, he's still dealing with the emotions of being a snake, you know what I mean? So you know, I find that very, very, very interesting. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up? We've been on for about an hour and a few minutes.
Yeah. One thing I think that's important to talk about with the movie is with the sister, with his wife.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the point of them underestimating the response. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's relevant today in terms of, like I said, if they could do that, you could sit there and watch them do that. It's like, while we're going through our cathartic moment and we feel like, yo, we want to take on the system. And like, you know, Reg, you know, like I said, I've been in the mix with this since I was at Avon Old Farms. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Put myself out there from the beginning. And so I mean, I get it, but it's like, you got to learn how to play the game. Like, this is not a game. Like we said, that was a 21-year-old kid talking about, like, let's educate ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And they ran in there with the guns and, you know what I mean? And took his life right there in front of his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, and would have killed her if, like, the bullets happened to hit her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the point,
she had her child like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, for her, when she, like, read the poem, like, yo, I'm going through it right now because like you don't got to put your baby in this life. You know what I'm saying? And so I just say that to people when they step out. Like, you know, Reg, I say I don't have any kids. You know what I mean? I got my brothers, my niece, but I personally don't have any kids. And so I always mindful of that, but I always talk to people with it. Like, you got to be mindful of that, man, because you never know how the system will buck back at you. And you may look at it as a small thing. You might think about that you're just doing this, like you're just doing that, you know what I mean? And next thing you know, you know what I mean? Like, you got somebody running in your crib, you know, like we've seen it, like, within the last couple of years, you know what I mean? So just be mindful of that. And I think, like, that's part of what we got to take away from that. We can't just go and see and just want to be Fred Hampton, and then you run out there and you might end up really being Fred Hampton.
Yo, that's a powerful line too. The most powerful thing that I've ever seen from him was that the video that I posted on the Brown Table. Basically, you have a group coming to him wanting to connect with the Panthers, and he's looking through like, I wish you had more about education in here, like because it's not enough literature in here that's telling me that, you know. So what you gonna do with the money? Like, you know what I mean? And he said, yo, dudes got to go through a 6-week program to even say they in my to say they, you know, part of us, because otherwise
they even speak on our policy.
Yo,
even speak on our policy. They
gotta go. A 19-year-old boy telling grown men like, yo, it's not enough in this little proposal about education. I'm gonna have to deny this. Y'all got to, like, you know, y'all got to beef up your education component first, and then come back and holler at me.
But check this out. Let's not gloss over the Crowns, because the Crowns had the same order. It's just that the Crowns was living in a slightly different world. Because when homie stepped up, homie stepped and smacked them like, yo, you know you don't speak out of turn. And everybody that look at the smack, they looked at homie like, you know you don't speak out of turn. And even he sat back, and as much as he was tight, he knew like, man, I was out of line.
And he was right.
He was right, but he knew he was out of line. And so what's crazy is
that's a dope point.
It's what's crazy is, and like, you know, Minister Farrakhan says it all the time, many others, man, like the Fred Hamptons are still here. I mean, these cats with these gangs, like I always say, these kids with the gangs, like when I go to a school and I see a teacher speak with an administrator, and they say, you know, it's like, you know, just trying to keep these kids' attention. It's just, they're so varied and they got so many home issues. And I'm like, but then I can go. I remember I was in Harlem. I'm not gonna say his name, but there was a young kid. He was like Dre age, you know what I mean? Probably like 16, 17 at the time. He was like the number 2. It's crazy to me to say he was the number 2 in this big gang in Harlem. The gang had like 500 members or whatever what their numbers were. But this dude was like 17. And I remember like one time, like he had them like loke up, you know what I mean? Like he put a call out and like 50 kids, like,
yeah.
For a 16-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, and it was organized. They was disorganized, but they was organized. They had a name. Like, think about it. They had a name, they had a flag, they had ways that we communicate, they got ways we don't communicate. You know what I mean? Like, they had an order, they had a number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they had a number 1, they had a hierarchy, and they did all of that at 16. And most of the dudes that's following in line is his age. So even dudes older than him in his age was willing to be like, yo, I'm gonna follow the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these young kids who normally they don't listen to nobody, but now they following him. And so I'm like, he got 50 kids. Like, even if it's 50, that's the same classroom size that the teacher is complaining about. But he got 50. Now, mind you, there's other things involved with that, right? Because they're involved in all types of other nonsense that maybe it's easier to hold the kids' attention. But more to the point is that these kids are out here able to organize themselves the same way. It's just that, you know, what are they organizing around? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you could give a lot of your kids, Reg, a 16-year-old, by the time he's a junior, you could probably be like, yo, go run practice.
No doubt.
So you're gonna be like, yo, boom, 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 boom. And he could probably go start an AAU team. Like, I'm sure by the time a kid is a junior, he could probably start his own AAU team after being under your tutelage. You see what I'm saying? And he'd be able to do it because it's basketball, but he'd be able to organize it and be like, yo, this is what we got to do. And I'm the coach, and this is the starting 5, and you're number 6, 7, 8, and number 10, this is why you're still important.
Right.
And you know what I mean? I see it with my girls. So the Fred Hamptons, the point is that they're here, they're there. You see what I'm saying? But Fred Hampton he was in the mix. I mean, you know, house with guns and this, that, and the third. But when we see that same kid right now, we ain't going to meet with the dude with the crowns. We going to tell the dude, with the crowns to stop being the crowns. We trying to tell him to stop being the crowns. Fred Hampton didn't say stop being the crowns. He just say, yo, this is how we gonna work together. Because at the end of the day, you got a power structure that I can't create. And so it's like, to a certain degree, you have to respect that. You have to be mindful of the fact that that comes with other negative consequences. But there's negative consequences that come with dealing with the police. There's negative consequences that come with dealing with politicians. There's negative consequences that come with dealing with your job. But you still deal with them. You don't write them off.
Mm.
And so the negative consequences that come to dealing with our youth, but we get the benefit of organization. We're saying the main thing our people lack is organization. And in our youth, that's where you see the most organization.
Wow. Mm. Snoop talked about how Master P ran No Limit with much more structure than Suge ever ran Death Row. He's like, you know, every artist on No Limit got a house, a car, and 2 guns. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like basically your kid to be like, okay, you one of us now. You know what I mean? And basically, you know, Master P was able to get him out of situations that nobody else could have got him out of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know you talked about that privately as well, as far as sometimes people's genius, and I think that's the point that you're making right now. People's genius might not be obvious to the masses, but there's something there. That 17-year-old brother that you're talking about could put that towards, you know, running a Fortune 500 company one day. But right now, he already, even without being able to explain it to you, he already understands hierarchy and you know, the importance of people playing their role and how to delegate responsibility at 16 and 17 in the middle of Harlem, probably not even going to school on a regular basis. He already knows that.
Yeah.
You know
what I mean? And so like when I look at that, when I look at that video of Fred Hampton, you know, him like going at it with the adults, like that's what it is. Like that's what those kids do with us. Like they trying to explain. Now, you know, maybe they're not as intellectually inclined as Fred Hampton was at 19, but like that's what I said. For me, that like that's the true gem of the story is how do you create a Fred Hampton? And they don't tell us that story. They tell us the story of how they destroy Fred Hampton and it make you feel good, but that also scare you. But also they don't show you, like that's the research, you know what I mean? And I'm putting out, maybe that's something I need to do. But it's like how do you create Fred Hampton? I think that's the true gem of the story.
Excellent point, man. Somebody got to do the prequel.
Word.
Who out there could do it accurately? Yeah, I would love to see the prequel. They was talking about it at one point, doing a prequel to The Wire. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I want to see how
all things The Wire, so I'm with it. Yeah, I mean, as long as the quality stays the same, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
like The Wire,
I would definitely want to watch Marlo's rise to power. You know what I mean? Or how he probably was a young boy, young badass running around Baltimore getting into stuff. And, you know, that would be dope.
Yeah, no, the thing is about The Wire, you can do that like with literally every character. Like you could do like almost like a backstory. You know what I mean? Like, and it could be like his own show. You know what I'm saying? Like every character had lots of depth, man. Like, and
I would let it see how Snoop became. You know what? I was just talking to somebody else in the Brown Table. You wasn't a part of this conversation, but they was talking about who was the toughest white boy between Jax from Sons of Anarchy and Tommy from The Wire, and that turned into, I mean, Tommy from the Ghost from a power. Excuse me. And that turned into The Wire.
Yep.
They were saying how sometimes your number 2 in command is the toughest dude.
Yep.
I was saying that Jax really wasn't. You know, Jax didn't even run the organization. I don't know how familiar you are with Sons of Anarchy, but
yeah, I watched Sons of Anarchy.
So yeah, I'm like, Clay ran the organization. They was like, well, Chris ran Marlo's organization. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, you know what I mean? And you saw that when Marlo, the one time Marlo got mad and barked on him, Chris didn't say nothing. Like, shut up. Like, so there has to be, again, the reason why people don't understand that is because we never saw the rising action as to why Chris, who was a goon in his own right, felt so loyal to Marlo.
Yeah.
To the point where he would let no man talk to him like that except for Marlo. You know?
Yeah, you always, you know, I always bring up Weebay because like Weebay is like think about it, you could do a whole backstory on Weebay, and Weebay was only outside of jail for like 2 weeks in The Wire. You know what I mean?
Right.
The man at the time But just think about but just from his little clips, like there was still so much about Weebay, because Weebay was the ultimate, like I say, he was the ultimate loyal. Like he was the first Chris.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, and then you get to the point where when Chris goes to jail, that's who he ends up linking up with.
Right. And they seem like they're gonna be the best of friends.
They're in the same position.
I thought that was dope too for them to add that in, because they probably was going, you know what I mean? We don't gotta be enemies no more. We both here forever.
And the thing is that who else in a world where we know the majority of people end up rolling on with their Cody, regardless of the relationship, who else does Weebay have to relate to? You gotta think like this, like if you think about like being able to have like being able to talk to somebody about about holding your man down while he out there living your family, like still being a goon in jail.
Or even in there, they talk about, yo, I remember one time I had you, like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, like I was about to, you was this close from being gone. You know what I mean? Like
there's nobody else. It's like they say about presidents. Like there's nobody else for them to talk to but each other. So you know what I'm saying?
I remember I was with one of my OGs. We was at a club, and we at the bar, and he bought a drink for a dude that was at the other end of the bar. And when the bartender brought it to him, dude looked down and threw him the peace sign. And I was like, oh, who's he? He was like, yo, I shot that nigga before, yo. Like, you know what I mean? Like years ago, like, you know what I mean? We was both running around or whatever. Like, yo, I shot him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but yo, we both grown men now, and you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, imagine buying a drink for somebody who you was busting your gun at, you know what I mean, 10, 12 years before that. But you know what I mean? I'm thinking like, yo, I'm philosophical, like, yo, this is a beautiful thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this dude I'm like, yo, he knew it was you. He's like, yeah, he definitely knew it was me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I robbed him, but we was both running around like that. He got my man too. You know what I mean? But now I'm in the bar with him. We both 40 plus. Yeah. Yo, my man, salute. Like, you know what I mean? And home through the thumbs up, and you know what I mean? And they both went about their night like that. Like,
it was business.
Yeah, like, yo, like, you know, now we both got kids out here. And, you know what I mean? We both got wives and great kids. We chilling. You know what I mean? I'm buying that dude a drink. So, you know.
Nah, that's real shit, man.
Bro, this has been super real, man. Definitely enjoy having you on the show. You know how I feel about everything that I'm involved in. I'm always gonna find a way to connect with you.
No doubt, bro.
One of the few people that I look forward to talking to you, whether we agree or not. I always learn from you, and that's I try to surround myself with people that I feel like I can learn from. So I thank you for coming on. It's been dope. Gonna sign off here. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, man. This is the Blackprint episode 3. Thank you guys for watching.